Hi Greek Artist! I'm back to read you another Katie book this week. This one is called Katie and the Sunflowers, written and illustrated by James Mayhew, and I have permission to read this book from Hachette Childrens Books Publishing. So let's get started. Grandma was helping Katie plant some seeds in the garden when it started to rain. "Never mind," said Grandma, "the rain will make everything grow." "But what shall we do now?" said Katie. "Let's go to the gallery," said Grandma. "You always have fun there." When they arrived, Grandma sat down to rest, so Katie went off by herself to look around. The gallery was full of warm, sunny paintings. Katie liked a painting called Sunflowers by Vincent van Gogh. The sunflowers looked dry and crunchy and were full of seeds. "Perhaps I could grow the seeds in my garden," said Katie. She slowly reached out and found she could touch them. Ooh, does that painting look familiar? But Katie knocked the vase. It wobbled and fell right out of the picture, spilling sunflowers and seeds all over the floor. "Oh no," said Katie, "I'd better clear this up before anyone sees." Just then, Katie heard someone laughing. She looked around, but there was no one else in the room. The laughter was coming from a painting called Breton Girls Dancing by Paul Gauguin. "What's so funny?" said Katie, climbing inside. Katie saw that she was beside a farm. The girls, who were called Maisie, Musette, and Mimi, giggled and pointed to the mess in the gallery. "You'll be in trouble if anyone finds out," Mimi said. "Well, I didn't mean to knock over the vase," said Katie. "I don't suppose you could help me clear it up." "We're too tired," said Maisie. "We've been dancing all day," said Musette. "What about you?" said Katie to Mimi. "Only if I can bring Zazu," said Mimi, picking up her dog. "I suppose that's all right," said Katie. "Let's go." So they went through the frame and into the gallery. Mimi and Katie gathered at the sunflowers, but Zazu wanted to play. He snatched the sunflowers away in his mouth and ran off with them. "How can we put the picture back together now?" said Katie crossly. "I'm sorry, mon ami," said Mimi. "Let's try to catch him." They chased Zazu, but he was too quick for them. He suddenly took a flying leap towards a painting called Café Terrace at Night by Vincent van Gogh and disappeared inside. Katie and Mimi jumped in after him. Zazu refused to let go of the sunflowers. He darted in and out of the tables and chairs, knocking plates and cups flying. Then Zazu ran between the waiter's legs. "Zut alors!" said the waiter, dropping a plate of iced cakes. He was very angry. He chased Katie, Mimi, and Zazu right through the frame and back into the gallery. "What are we going to do?" panted Mimi. "I've got an idea," said Katie, pointing to the painting by Paul Cézanne. It was called Still Life with Apples and Oranges. "Come on, I need your help." Katie put her hand into the painting and grabbed one end of a cloth. She told Mimi to hold the other end. "Pull now!" yelled Katie. The bowls of fruit tipped up and apples and oranges came tumbling into the gallery just as the waiter caught up with them. He slipped on the fruit and spun around until he was dizzy. "Zut alors!" he yelled. "I wonder where Zazu went," said Mimi. "He must be here somewhere," said Katie as they dashed away. Said Mimi, "I shall never find him and he'll be lost in the gallery forever." "Nonsense," said Katie. "I can hear a dog barking now." They followed the noise and there at the end of the corridor was Zazu. He had dropped the sunflowers and was barking at a bright red dog in a painting called Tahitian Pastorals by Paul Gauguin. The other dog barked back, and Zazu jumped inside the picture. "Your dog is nothing but trouble," said Katie as they clamored after him. Zazu and the red dog barked at one another, wagging their tails. "Welcome to our island," said two beautiful women. It was very peaceful, full of scented lilies and blossom, and the sea lapping up on the beach. "Phew," said Katie, "it's really hot here. Let's go for a swim." While Zazu and the red dog ran about on the sand, Katie and Mimi splashed around in the sea. Zazu was busy digging a hole when, all of a sudden, he disappeared. "Where has he gone?" said Mimi. Katie looked into the hole. It was very large. Right at the bottom, she saw Zazu sitting on top of a big chest. Mimi and Katie slowly opened the lid. It was full of gold coins. "Pirate treasure," said Katie, showing the women. "What will we do with it?" "We don't use money on our island. We have everything we need," they said. "You can have it if you want." Katie took a handful of coins and thanked the women. Then she, Mimi, and Zazu went through the frame and back into the gallery. Katie quickly picked up the sunflowers before Zazu could grab them again. "We'd better get these back," she said. "Which way is it?" "I'm not sure, mon ami," said Mimi. "I think we're lost." Then they saw Zazu sniffing at something on the ground. "Sunflower seeds," said Katie. "Zazu's left a trail of them. What a clever dog. I'm glad he came after all." Mimi gathered Zazu up in her arms, and they followed the trail of sunflower seeds back to the Cezanne still life. They carefully put all the fruit back and then went on to the cafe picture by Van Gogh. The waiter was standing there with a piece of paper in his hand. "It's the bill," said Mimi, "for the cakes and everything." Katie dug into her pocket and took out the gold coins. "Is this enough?" she asked the waiter. "Merci," he said, looking very pleased. "You may eat cakes here whenever you want." And he climbed back into his picture. Then Katie and Mimi followed the seeds back to the sunflower picture. Katie collected a few seeds and wrapped them in her hanky and put them in her coat pocket. Then she carefully put the sunflowers back. "Almost as good as new," said Katie. "Thanks for coming with me." "I'm glad I did, mon ami," said Mimi. "It was fun." And she hopped into her picture with Zazu. Katie ran off to find her grandma, who was just waking up. "Shall we see if it stopped raining?" Grandma said. It hadn't, but Katie didn't mind. "Rain is good for my garden," she said. "It will make everything grow." Including those sunflower seeds, right? So now let's do some art activities. The main painting in our book today is called Sunflowers by Vincent van Gogh. Now, this is a perfect time to talk about sunflowers and seeds because it's spring. So I know some of you have been planting gardens, or you at least have been seeing some flowers pop up around your neighborhoods. Also, coming up soon, we have Mother's Day, and actually, I have a couple birthdays in my family, so flowers are a great way to celebrate other people. So we're going to do two types of flower pictures. Our first one, we're going to try to only use the primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. And the second one, we're going to get into a little bit of pixel art. So Van Gogh is known for using a technique called impasto. Impasto painting was when he used really thick paint to dab and layer on his paint so it looks kind of spotty, kind of like pixels, and also he could layer his colors on top of each other, so he didn't always mix green. Sometimes he made green by putting blue and yellow paint on top of each other. So we're going to do two pictures of flowers, and you don't have to do them just like me, but these could be great gifts for someone you love. So first up, I need a piece of paper. Now, remember, you can use lined paper, you can use backs of envelopes, whatever you have. So I'm going to use a marker just because it helps you see better, but you can use pencil, pen, whatever you have. Now, the first thing I want to do is make a vase. Now, Van Gogh has this shape of vase, kind of like a cylinder, but you don't have to do that. So I'm going to go to the bottom. I'm going to make a little curve. I'm going to make 2 curves going up and then another curve going in so that it looks round. Now I went a little high there. That's okay. This is just a fun drawing I want to do. Now, next I want to add some stems to my sunflowers. I'm going to do 3 just so we can go a little fast here. So I'm going to do maybe 1 medium size, 1 tall, and 1 bent over. Because we saw in Van Gogh's paintings that some of his flowers were getting a little dried out and losing their petals or bending down. It kind of makes his painting look a little more interesting. So next I'm going to go ahead and add my flowers. Now we can do this a couple ways. I can start with a circle for where the seeds are. Then I can add my petals. I can go curve, curve, and just go around and make my petals. And I turn my paper because it's easier for me to draw in the same direction over and over. And then I'm back to the beginning. And that can be your sunflower. Now, we could also look at a real flower, in this case a fabric flower from my hat. Now I see that the petals start off smaller towards the middle, then they get bigger and they're on top of each other. So I could look at a flower. So if you have a fabric flower, a fake flower, a real flower, it doesn't even have to be a sunflower, but you could look at a flower to draw it how it really looks. So I see the circle in the middle, then I see these smaller petals that look like bumps, they're not very pointy. And then I see these longer petals coming up and they're a little pointier. And I'm going to keep going around and around. And then I see some that are behind these other petals. So I can start having some peek through, maybe some are going different directions, maybe some look pointy and some don't. So you just need to look at your flower or layer petals how you think the flower would really look until they're all the way around. So we'll pretend like that one's done. Now this other one I have bending down, so I want to make it look like it is kind of falling over or facing the side. So, oops, there's my ruler. So to do that, I'm going to start with a straight line and a bump, a semicircle. Then I know I could see these petals over here. And then I could see a couple petals kind of coming around this side, peeking up, and there's my other flower. Now I also need a table because my vase is not floating in the air. Now I'm ready to color. Now I said we could only use the primary colors, but I want it to be the real colors of my sunflowers. So I need to think how a sunflower might look. Well, first the stems are green. What 2 colors make green? So I'm gonna start with my yellow. So I can do this a couple ways. I can press hard with my yellow. Then I can press softly with my blue, and I can get a nice yellowish green color. Now the second way I could do this is more like dashes, maybe like the style of Van Gogh. So maybe I want to do dashes of the blue and yellow, so it has more texture. And it's a mix of yellow and blue, so sometimes you see blue, sometimes you see yellow, and sometimes you see green. And I can go back and forth until it's full. Now I forgot to add my leaves, so you can always go in there and add your leaves going down. And when I'm ready to do my flowers, I want to do those orange and yellow colors. So once again, I can either color hard with my lighter color. Oh, not blue, red, I'm making orange. And then maybe I just want the edges to be orange, so I'm gonna color softer with my darker color of red. So I could make my orange tips lighter. Or I could do the impasto style, so I could make my dots and then make my dots. Now, what color would be the inside where the seeds are? Well, when a sunflower dries out, their seeds are a little more brown. Now, how do you make brown? Red, yellow, and blue. So I can go in, and this will look a little more rainbowish because it's a little hard to mix colors with crayons, but I think it looks cool. So dashes of blue, dashes of red, and dashes of yellow, so we can make it a little more like textury, like those seeds would be on a sunflower. Now I continue coloring until all my flowers are done. I can add more leaves, I can add designs on my pot. Now maybe I want to do the background a little bit more like another Van Gogh painting, Starry Night. So I could do the swirls in the sky with the moon and stars if I wanted to, and I'd use those dashes and those dots, and I would give my little stars fluttering around, give them a little orange in there until I have a whole sky. So that is our first flower project. Our second one, I told you, was inspired by pixels. And the first thing I had to do was make a grid paper. Now, you can do this a couple ways. In the description on the YouTube channel or in the comments on our Facebook post, you can find a printable grid paper. If you have some paper at home that already is gridded like this, you can use that, or you can make your own. That's what I did. There's a couple ways to make your own grid paper. I used a ruler. I laid my ruler on the top, and every ½ inch I put a little mark, lined it up with the side. Then I went to the bottom. Every ½ inch I put a little mark, and then I matched up my lines and drew them down. Then I did the same thing on the side. That's one way. Another way is if you have an old cereal box or a piece of cardboard, you can draw a line on it, cut out your strip, and use this to trace your lines. So all you have to do is line it up on the side of a piece of paper. Make sure it's lined up all the way with the side. Hold it down, stretch your arm across. Take your pencil or pen and trace it all the way down. Then scoot over your line, line it up with the line you just made, hold it down and trace it. And you keep doing this till you're all the way across. Then you turn your paper sideways, line it up with the shorter edge, make sure it's lined up, hold it and trace it. Scoot it over to the line you just made, trace it again until it's all the way down, and you will have your own gridded paper. Now, to create our sunflowers, and remember, you do not have to do it like I did. You don't have to put a heart there. You can make a smiley face. You can use other colors. You can make different kinds of flowers. But I'm going to show you a part of this one just so you know how to get started. The first thing I want to do is make my vase. So I wanted it right in the middle. So to figure out how to do that, I had to count my spaces on each side. I decided I wanted the vase to start 4 pixels, which a pixel is just a unit of color in a computer graphic, like Minecraft, right? So if you have smaller squares, you can get more detail. If you have bigger squares, it looks a little bit more boxy. So I count 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'll do that down here. Start this side. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to color the next square after 4. Then I went on this side, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I colored the next square after 4, and now I know my vase is gonna be in the middle. Now I gotta fill in the rest of those, so I trace the top of the pixel and just color it all in. Now, you see how my vase looks a little bit rounded? If you want something to look round, you color the diagonal squares, not a straight up and down. You make them the ones that touch each corner. So a diagonal. So I colored one square up, then I went to the diagonal square, Then I went one more diagonal. And then I'd do the same thing on the next side, the other side. Oops, I made a mistake. That's okay. I'll just have a little extra little spot there. And you know what? If you make a mistake like I just did, oh no, it's not the same. Just do the same thing over here. No big deal. Now you don't even know I made a mistake, right? And then I went one up. And I think I went two up actually. So you're just doing the same on both sides. That's symmetry, right? And then I did diagonal, diagonal. And I'm just doing the same thing I did there on the bottom. And then I went up one, and over. And then I colored those in. Now to make my heart, you can see how I started in the middle, and then I went two, and then went diagonal, down, diagonal. So it's just kind of a trial and error. You just kind of figure out what works. And the way I did that is I used a pencil, and I was like, how do I make a heart? And I shaded it in with my pencil first, so that if I made a mistake, it could erase it really easily. So you probably want to try this out with your pencil so you don't waste your grid paper. And then I could color it in. I made my flowers with straight lines and diagonal lines so it looked like it was falling over. I did the center. I used different colors for my petals. I could color the sky. I made my table. So that's how I did my pixelated sunflowers, but you do you. You do what you want to do. So we have two projects. We have our red, yellow, blue primary color flowers in a vase, or our pixel art. Choose what you like. Don't forget to email me or post your creations, and just have fun being inspired by Vincent van Gogh's sunflowers. See you next time, guys.